Welcome back to the Growing Band Director podcast. This is episode number 290. I'm here with Mike Levine. How are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Beautiful. Thanks for being here. So you're the founder of Dallas Brass back in 1983. Currently, you have Harmony Bridge, which is a fabulous company and mission we're going to talk about as well. Um, Professional trombone player originally from Minnesota, right?
Right.
So,
hmm
so you had this thought sort of about like, so how did you begin the whole Dallas Brass thing, which I think all band directors have probably heard of at this point?
Well, I ended up in Dallas after growing up in Minnesota. I went to Juilliard, played an orchestra overseas, and when I came back to the States, I went to Dallas and innocently started a brass quintet to play for weddings. That was the original motivation,
Hmm.
and that's what we did. We played a lot of weddings and re wedding receptions and cocktail parties and a lot of background music. But then, having been classically trained, I really felt like I wanted to play concerts. I wanted people to listen, not just to be eating and drinking and socializing while we played. Um, so I pointed it in that direction, got an agent, and one thing led to another. And little did I know that 40 years later we would still be going strong. Um, so yeah, it was a very innocent beginning. That's the long and short of it.
Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast with a roster of imaginative composers, including composers who have been featured on this podcast, such as Carol Britton Chambers, Laura Estes, and Tyler Arcari. Excelsior Music Publishing provides new music for concert band, jazz ensemble, solo and ensemble, as well as books and resources for all levels and occasions, including a large and festive selection of music for your fall, holiday, and Christmas concerts. Find your perfect next piece at excelsiamusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. You need to know about Tuner Caddy. It was invented by Mark Casperson, a band director of 38 years who got tired of dealing with dropped tuners and distracted kids. So he created a solution that actually works in a busy rehearsal room. And get this, it took him 57 prototypes to get it just right. That tells you how committed he is to getting it right for directors and students alike. Since then, Tuner Caddy has been showing up in some of the most elite music programs in the country. We're talking about Mouse Middle School in Frisco, Texas, Cooper Junior High in Virginia, Arbor Creek and Creek Valley in Louisville, Texas, Rushing Middle School in Prosper, and many more. These are groups that are playing at the highest level, and they're trusting Tuner Caddy to help them stay in tune. Literally. You'll even find them on stage at the Midwest Clinic, TMEA, and the Music for All Clinic. Classic model fits onto any stand, and there's even a Student Pro, which is a slimmer one for wire stands, and now also a tuner metronome transposable and comes with a 6-foot mic. Check it out at tunercaddy.com or through Music and Arts, Sweetwater, Premier Music Teaching Aids, or your local retailer. If you're writing a grant, Mark and his team are ready to help you out. Check them out at tunercaddy.com. Yeah, and the mission of the Dallas Brass seems to be like just connecting people, right? Like meeting. I remember seeing you guys at places like in conventions and MEAs and like sort
Yeah.
of everywhere people would listen to you, right? Um, yeah, and like that connection of chamber music to reaching people. What's so special about that?
Well, from the beginning, having started out playing receptions and cocktail parties, and and playing music that people could relate to, that was kind of the whole approach. I didn't necessarily want to play, chamber music, quote unquote, chamber music, and
Hmm.
I wanted to reach the people, the common person, and realizing they don't typically appreciate classical music and the more unknown repertoire. So we started playing a lighter type of repertoire. We were playing marches and rags and Dixieland and show tunes and this kind of stuff. And I found that people just really took to it. I guess it's kind of like almost like a pop Boston pops type of approach.
Hmm.
And um and I realized that we could help bring more people into the classical world by connecting in that way. So our repertoire has always had a combination of classical and all these other different styles, but we always mix the classical in as well. And to educate people, to talk to the audience and tell a little bit about the music or the composer or whatever it might be, to kind of help them feel comfortable with the music and to appreciate the music. So connecting with the audiences has always been a huge priority for Dallas Brass.
Well, and the thought of knowing your audience obviously is a hugely important thing as a performer, and if you have an ensemble like that, but also as a teacher, right? Like knowing if your students are your audience, that whole knowing your audience is a pretty huge thing. So you were performing member for 32 years, right?
Well,
It sounds.
I
It,
still am actually. I still
okay.
play a bit in the show. I don't play trombone full time, but I still play a few tunes, and I MC the show, and I do the lighting, and I work with the students. My pride and joy is that on 99% of our concerts, we invite a high school band and often a middle school band as well
Mhm.
to come up on stage and play a piece with the Dallas Brass. And over the years, we've had over 300,000 students share the stage with Dallas Brass, which I'm obviously very proud of. And it's just that's what keeps me going at this point, to be honest with you, is seeing kids, especially in this day and age, with all this technology and so forth, to see them playing good old-fashioned band instruments. Well, you're in
Mhm.
the same position, being a
Yeah.
band director. It's so rewarding to see them get excited about playing a clarinet or a trumpet or whatever the case might be.
So that keeps you going, but tennis does as well. We just had a nice
Yeah.
long conversation about tennis. I
Yeah.
wish we could play together next time I'm in
Yeah.
Minnesota or you're in Maine. We should make
Yeah.
that happen.
Let's put it on our bucket list.
What about Midwest? Are you going to Midwest? We get an indoor court in Chicago. Let's
Yeah,
see how
right.
that
We
see.
actually Dallas Press played at Midwest just this last December, but yeah, I go back. Do you go every year?
Typically, I'm hoping to go every year from here on.
All right. Well, let's see if we can make something work there. Yeah, I'm sure we can find an indoor court
I
somewhere.
have a trombone player in the next room over here. He's 11. He's my son, and he's our second child, and he's playing trombone. So just a little bit of trombone advice that you could give to a band director listening who is has a very average program, especially from kids from beginners on. What's maybe some like not secrets, right? But like advice that you might have to help kids who are going to be trombone players moving forward.
Well, we could certainly do a whole podcast on beginning trombone. There's no question about that. But one of the things that's obviously the most unique thing about the trombone is the slide. And I think if kids can get to the point where they can feel so comfortable with those positions, and like one of the exercises I like to do with young kids is, when they're just struggling trying to find the positions and to even know what the positions are, to be able to pick up the horn and go, you know, whether you're saying the numbers or the letter names or both, I will do both, but 1, 6, 4, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1. And to be able to say that 1, 6, 4, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1, so that our brain is is engaged and they can sense before they play that position where it's going. And then to actually do that without the slide, and then to pick up the slide and move the slide and say those numbers and um and then to play the notes. Another thing is to go with the trombone, to go bum 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 bum. So it's move, play, move, play, move, play. So they make sure they're in that position. So they're not just wah, wah, wah all over the place like that. And then eventually bum, 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 bum. So I guess the whole point of what I'm saying is to master the slide accuracy. That's why when people do clinics and they bring the baritones and the trombones in the same room, I'm saying no, put the baritones with the tubas. The slide needs real attention. So, I mean, that's one of a million things, but
Right.
but I really find more kids struggle with just slide positions. They either don't know the numbers. In my day, I used flashcards. Nowadays, I'm sure there are all kinds of programs on the internet to help you, develop, it's getting the brain engaged. If this
Well,
isn't working, you got no chance here or here.
right. And in addition, obviously having a great ear and a sense of pitch is a huge bonus as well for trombone players because if they can't hear it's in tune, they're not going to be able to adjust it, right? Depending on the setting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the idea you talked about, like moving the slide quickly and like you had the bum, move, bum,
Yeah.
right? If people who were just listening didn't see that, the fact that you move your slide quickly 99% of the time, no matter what's, like you see the kids who are playing a lyrical selection and then they don't move. So like how do we ingrain that from young kids? How do we ingrain the moving the
Yeah,
slide
right.
quickly no matter what style of music it is?
Yeah, if they're playing something slow, then they move the slide slow to go
Yeah.
with it. No, you still got to move the slide fast. Um, yeah, and oh my gosh, we can listen. We can keep going on trombone if you like. I love it. So um, one other point that I find is that when with the articulation they get mushy when they're playing legato, and it's wah 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 instead of ta ta. And one of the things that my teacher Steve Zelmer, who played principal in the Minnesota Orchestra for many years, said he would go up to the piano and he'd play bum 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 staccato, and then he'd play ba da 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 da, and then he'd play legato, and explained to me that the articulation is exactly the same. The hammer still hits the string. So even when you're playing legato, you still need to have a nice,
Mhm.
clean articulation separating those notes. When you're playing valves, it happens automatically. But on trombone, we've got to create that valve with our tongue. So that's another common thing I hear younger players do that isn't quite right. So
Today's episode is sponsored by the Thumb Gummy, a simple but powerful teaching aid designed for band students and their teachers. If you've ever taught beginners or even students a few years in who still struggle with their hand position, you know how much time can be lost with the same reminders over and over again. Thumb Gummy was created to fix that problem. It gives students a gentle guide for where their hands should go so they play more comfortably and with better technique. That means fewer bad habits, less frustration, and more progress in every rehearsal. Teachers tell us they spend less time correcting posture and more time actually teaching music. And students gain confidence because their instrument feels easier to play. Thumb Gummy is trusted by educators across the country, and it's available for trumpet, trombone, clarinet, and more. To learn more or find a local music store that carries it, visit thumbgummy.com. My good friend Trent Austin started Austin Custom Brass so many years ago. You can call him at 816-410-0826. They ship all over the world. They have a shop in Kansas City, Missouri, and they really are an amazing sponsor of this podcast. They do trumpets, trombones, euphoniums, tubas, mouthpieces, and more, all the way from the beginner to the professional. Austin Custom Brass has worked with thousands of brass players from around the world. And you can check them out on www.austincustombrass.biz. I've recently learned about a product too called Thumb Gummy, which I'm not, this is not about that, but I don't know if you've heard about this. It's like a little silicone thing that you put on the right hand, the slide, and you can like basically put your two fingers on it. So kids like grab that
yeah,
and it fixes their right hand position like immediately
really
because so there's like a tactile place to kind of grab it and then move. You can get it different colors too. So
interesting.
I got my son one of those. It's summer, so he hasn't really practiced as much as he should have. So we'll see if it sticks or not.
Yeah. Now, does your wife play as well?
Yeah, she's a flute player.
Okay. So your instrument is
Trumpet.
okay. So when we get into this topic of Harmony Bridge, we get this trio book that's all flexible instrumentation, and I can see you and your wife and your son playing trios together.
Yep. So
So,
let's get into that. So Harmony Bridge, right? What this is a program. Tell us about it.
well, let me go back and if take just a minute and explain how this all came to be. Dallas Brass was playing, this is back in 2010. We were playing a concert in the smallest town we've ever played, ironically, called Tripp, South Dakota. Population is under 500. We played in the high school gym. There were like 800 people at the concert because people came from all the surrounding farming communities to attend. This is the biggest thing that's happened in Tripp like in the last century. And it was a blast. It was just, I love playing small towns. It's just so rewarding. But after the concert, there was a reception, and somehow we got to talking about baseball. And growing up in Minnesota, of course, Minnesota Twins is my team. And no matter how bad they are, they'll always be my team. You know how
Mhm.
that goes. And so somebody mentioned that there was a lady in Tripp who was a big Twins fan, which I didn't think much of because in South Dakota they don't have pro teams, so they tend to be Twins fans. But then they told me that this lady was 107 years old. And I went, wow, I've got to meet her. So the next day, a couple of us in the band went over to the nursing home where she was living, and she was bedridden, but she was still alert. And I got out my trombone and I played the Twins song. They got their kind of their fight song. And then my buddy played the national anthem, and I played "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" and just the melody. Nothing fancy here.
Mm-hmm.
A nurse comes in the room and says, "You guys should go out in the hallway and see what's going on out there." We go out in the hallway, and it's a traffic jam with wheelchairs, bumper to bumper wheelchairs. People wanted to hear the music, and they just rolled themselves over as close as they could get. Well, my buddy kept playing tunes. He played Amazing Grace. He played Danny Boy. Again, familiar songs, songs they could relate to. One lady wanted to hear Silent Night, even though it was April. And I watched, and this was like this epiphany. I've got goosebumps right now just
Mm.
telling you about it. And it was like I'm looking at the people and seeing their lips moving and their bodies swaying and their eyes getting bright and just like music was like filling the room in such a spiritual and soulful way. I mean, Dallas Brass has played at Carnegie Hall. We played at the Kennedy Center. And here I am standing in the hallway of a nursing home in Tripp, South Dakota, feeling like, oh my gosh, this is what it's all about. And then that was phase one. And then phase two was when I thought to myself, we have millions of kids literally that are learning to play instruments thanks to people like you. And we have millions of people all over America, large cities, small towns, that lived vibrant, active lives with careers and families and activities and so forth. And now, because of the natural aging process, they're isolated and often lonely and in these homes. And wouldn't it be incredible if we could recreate what happened to me that day and have our kids connect with these people? And granted, it goes on. I mean, at Christmas, it would be typical the time where the choir or the jazz band would go over and that's great. But Harmony Bridge is about the rest of the year. You know, there are 364 days between Christmases and I talked to a lady once in a senior home down in Florida, and after some kids played, and I said, "Does this happen often?" And she says, "Well, in December we have kids in here like 2 or 3 times a day for like 3 weeks in a row, and the rest of the year, nothing."
Mhm.
And that stuck with me, and I'll never forget that. So the original motivation behind Harmony Bridge was to connect band kids and band programs with the elderly population, or to look at it in a bigger picture, to connect the school with the community or the band program with the community, which of course has benefits that are just, ongoing. What it does for the seniors is a beautiful thing, but what it does for the kids is really what intrigues me because they learn about sharing and caring and compassion and empathy and beyond the music. And so they go in and they play for say 30 minutes and then they stay and they visit with the residents for another 30 minutes and they talk to them one on one and ask them about their childhood and what life was like before cell phones and internet and if they played a band instrument and we even talk to the kids and help train them on the kinds of questions to ask. So their job is to learn about the seniors. And so I'll stop there. I'll pause there and let you ask some questions, but that's how it all started.
So what's the practical thing look like if somebody's like, oh, this sounds like a great idea? Do they just kind of you laid out the concept? Do they just kind of find a way to do this in their own program, or do they reach out to you? Like, how does what is the next
Well,
step?
well, what I did, okay, I left out a very important step. When I came up, I shouldn't say when I came up with the idea, I should say when the idea came to me, it came from higher powers, I believe. Um, I decided I needed to create repertoire that would be appropriate. We needed familiar songs, songs that would bring back memories for these elderly people. We needed music for all ages of kids. We needed flexible instrumentation so that any combination could play and you could play with your friends. And and I needed it to be pedagogically um, sound, yeah, to be solid or valuable. So, I've created 3 books with the help of some good arrangers. I've done some, and a couple friends have done some. We have a trio book, which is the easiest technically, then a quartet book, and then a quintet book, and they all have percussion. And like I say, it's all flexible instrumentation. And like for example, the trio book, which is this, can be played by, and you can see the motto. Oh, I got to get into telling you about this too.
Hmm.
Everyone gets to shine. We can talk about that in a minute, but um, the trio book is in score form. And for example, here's a song they all grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
You can see we've color coded the parts so it's easier for the young kids to follow along because they're not used to skipping lines. We pass the melody from voice to voice. It doesn't stay in one voice. A lot of the books out there, the melody's in the top, which is fine. That has a different purpose. But our purpose was to share the melody. And then I put dotted brackets. I think you can see those whenever they have the melody. So the kids are aware where they have the tune, where they don't have the tune.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the tune, even if the dynamic doesn't change, you back off a little bit because somebody else has the tune. So, and then the quartet and quintet book. Um, oh, and the other thing I did is there are solos and duets within each trio. Like for example, on this one, it starts with a trio, then there's a solo, followed by a duet, another solo, another duet, a third solo, a third duet, and then they play together. So by
Yeah.
the time you play page one, you've played a trio, a solo, and a duet all on page one. So um, the quartet and quintet books are not in score form. Um, but I still use the brackets. I use three colors of brackets, red for melody, blue for a harmony part that would correspond with the melody, like if it's in thirds, for example.
Hmm.
And then green brackets for other counter material, counter melodies, or other material that you would typically say, bring that out, even though it's not the melody, inner moving parts. So the kids start to develop a sense of what role they're playing. Not just We're not just playing half notes and whole notes and fortes and pianos and staccatos and whatever, but I have a function. I'm the melody. I'm supporting the melody. I've got, so they start to see how that changes throughout the piece. So on the pedagogical side, I was very conscious of trying to make it um, valuable pedagogically. So
Couple questions that I have.
yeah,
So first of
please.
all, how do people know which level of books their kids would be at? Obviously, if you have like a yeah, so it's trio, but it also the intermediate is the quartet, and then the more advanced is the quintet. Is that right?
Yeah,
So how
yeah,
is there a place where they can see like sample pages, or they know, hey, my
yeah.
band is like this level?
Yeah, there are sample pages on our website, harmonybridge.net. We also have recordings of every piece so the kids can practice with the practice tracks, and that's all on the website. Um, and it's on YouTube. But the beauty of that I learned recently is that you can slow it down or speed it up on
Yeah.
YouTube. Great. Um, but what I like to do is these books are not available through Pepper or whatever publishers. We've self-published it, and when people are interested, I love to set up a Zoom with them and just talk to them about their program and what their needs are and share some ideas because Harmony Bridge is more than just a book. We want to teach showmanship when the kids perform, kind of like Dallas Brass, connecting with your audience, introducing yourselves, making it fun, not just, because we all know when you play in a band, you typically are staring at a music stand and people watch you look at your music stand. Whereas in other areas of the music world, we play to the audience and we're more focused this way and not that way. So we talk to the kids about that. What can you do to make it more to connect more with your audience? And then the interaction part afterwards. So all these are parts of Harmony Bridge. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to go, it's not like you're required to go out to play in senior homes, but that is the highest level. I mean, this book I feel can be valuable in the band room itself. But to give the kids the opportunity to go out and do this is is a whole nother, it's just a whole nother thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter the level of kid if they have music that they can attain. I mean, even if you're talking about really advanced students, right? I mean, even at the high school level, like
Oh yeah.
connecting with people is really good for them because they tend to think about themselves a lot. And also at the same time, they have community service that is sort of required in a lot of places. So this is also a nice. It's I'm not saying you do it because of that, right? But like they're already thinking about ways to serve community in school as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I was going to mention a minute ago was about, I remember being in sixth grade band and feeling like my part didn't matter or that I didn't matter because
Mm.
I knew that if all of a sudden I stopped playing, hey, guess what? Nobody noticed. Or if I played a wrong note or a wrong rhythm or whatever, because there's so many people playing. So there's a fine line, obviously, between safety and numbers and getting lost in the crowd. And I feel like in the band world, there's a lack of individuality. Whereas in sports, at some point, any kid could be the star at any moment. They get it, they hit the ball, they score the run, they make the catch, they make the basket, they kick the goal. I mean, whatever it is, even though it's a team, individual moments are going to be sprinkled throughout commonly. Um, in the band music world, it's not quite that way. Um, unless you're a first chair player and you happen to get a solo, but everybody else, it's like, and that's fine, but I feel like kids need a chance to have a moment. And that's why this book, again, the slogan is everyone gets to shine. And in a small ensemble, that's what happens is that the kids get an opportunity to show what they can do, and it means something. One time I was working with a seventh grade band. We were doing Skip to My Lou in 4 parts. And we played it a couple times through. It's not super difficult, obviously. So they sounded good. And I said, okay, I'd like to get some volunteers. I'd like to do two on a part, which is a lot safer than one on a part, obviously. So hands kind of went up sort of sheepishly. And I said, okay, you two here and there. Okay, good. So once you stand up, it's like, ooh, we get to stand up. This is like a big deal already. And they were standing next to each other. So I didn't want to have this separation. And they played whatever it was, 8 bars, 16 bars, and they sounded good. And I maintain they sounded good because they knew they could do it because they played it as a large group. So they had the confidence. And then had everybody clap for them. And then here was the real clincher. Then I said, okay, let's get some more volunteers. Every hand went up. You know how
Mm.
kids shaking their hand, me. I mean, they knew that they could do it. They knew it was a safe thing. They wanted to show me where they could do it. And the excitement in the room was unbelievable. And I just went away with that, realizing that kids want a chance to show you what they can do. And I mean, I'm not sure there are some kids who would just as soon not, but I think the greater majority, and once they have the confidence that they know they can do it,
Mm.
well, of course, if they're afraid, they're not going to want to do it. But if they have the confidence, they're going to want to show you. And that was huge. One other story that kind of goes with that is Dallas Brass. I think I mentioned that we bring up a high school and a middle school band in our concerts. So we're rehearsing with a middle school band a few years back, and I went back to the trombone section to see if I could help out a little bit. And the first kid I came up to had this horn up and the slides going back and forth. And I look at his music stand, there's no music on the stand. And it's not because he memorized it. I said, "Where's your music?" And he goes, "I don't know, I can't find it." So instead of asking the band director for another copy or looking on with somebody else, he just decided all he had to do is hold the horn up and pretend to play, and it wouldn't matter. Essentially, his part didn't matter, and even more extreme, he didn't matter. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of true. It's not that he doesn't matter, but it's like they don't feel that sense that they are important in that way. And I'll never forget that. And that's what I think we have to give kids the opportunity to play in the large ensemble, but also to play in small groups where they get a chance to shine.
I like the fact that you said you have tunes that the elderly people would know because playing music they know is huge, but also
Huge.
you're teaching history to the kids who
Uh,
probably don't know those tunes,
right.
right? Because that's a whole thing too. Kids now don't know tunes that, and part of, I know my classroom, I know a lot of teachers' classrooms is let's incorporate historical music of melodies of our country, of other countries, of whatever, so that kids are literate in knowing these basic melodies that we think they
Right.
should know.
Right. That
Yeah.
aspect. There's that aspect too, for sure.
So the question I have is like I'm like a normal band director, right? And we do some chamber music throughout my program, but we also have a busy program of all the other ensembles we were talking about ahead of time with marching band and jazz bands. Like a lot of this stuff happens after school all year long. So like thinking about adding something is always hard, right?
Yep.
So I'm going through the process in my mind of like how could I do something? We already do like a chamber music day once every 2 weeks, sort of like within our band period. So it's because
Yeah.
we've always felt in our program that like if a kid is in chamber music, obviously they're going to be a better player, right? If they're a better player, the band's going to be
Oh,
better. So sacrificing that rehearsal time, obviously you still need rehearsal time for the concert, right? But like sacrificing some of the rehearsal time for chamber music. I know you can do it in full group, but like allowing them to break off and things, or maybe they even go and perform during that break, right? So there's like no schedule excuse for kids not to be able to do it. I'm just thinking about some practical ways that programs have started using it without sacrificing, quote unquote, their other goals of concerts as well.
yeah. Well, sacrifice is an interesting word because it's is it sacrifice or is it compromise or is it rebalancing?
Hmm.
If like I think of if and listen, I'm not a band director, so I a lot of times when I say things, I feel like I'm trying to be very careful how I say things because I haven't lived that life. But the fact is that the value that kids get out of a chamber situation is so huge that I feel like we owe it to the kids to give them that should be part of their experience. And so if it means playing one less piece or a little less difficult pieces as far as the concert goes, in order to make time for the chamber music, I think that compromise is essential. One of the ways that I feel is super valuable because in incorporating this is to play it as a large ensemble, to play the trio with the entire band or the quartet. I mean, choirs are in generally four parts, and you've got,
Hmm.
maybe could have 200 kids singing four parts, and strings the same thing. There are four parts, and in the band world, we break it down into like 18 or 25 parts, which is fine, but why not play? It's like playing a chorale. It's four
Right.
parts, band playing. This is the only difference here is that you've got melody and harmony and counter melodies and bass lines and afterbeats as opposed to a chorale, which would just be homophonic. But if you rehearse it as a large group, and then like I mentioned with them, I skipped to the Lou story, and then you could break it down. You could say, okay, let's just have the brass play. And by the way, woodwinds, I want you to listen and tell me what you're hearing. Because that's a big part of it too, is for the kids to start to develop their own opinions on their musical independence, if you will. What are you hearing? Because typically in the band environment, and this is with all due respect, we're on the podium saying shorter, longer, softer, louder, it's late, it's early, here's what I need, and I need you to do what I tell you to do. And again, I don't mean to say that in a derogatory way. That's the nature of it. And a lot of directors will ask the kids to respond and so forth. But if we give the kids more opportunity to be listening, really listening and assessing and problem solving, that to me is huge. So, brass, you play, woodwinds, you listen and tell me what you think. Or you can be more specific. Tell me what you think of the tempo. Is it steady? Did it drag? Did it rush? What do you think of the articulation? Can you hear the melody? You can point them wherever you want them to go. So the band director becomes more of a facilitator instead of you don't tell them anything. You are only asking questions. Now, woodwinds you play and brass you listen and percussion, however you want to do it. So, and then you could say, like with the trio, you could say, okay, which section would like to demonstrate this? And all the hands will go up. Okay, let's take trumpets and then we'll take flutes. Tomorrow we can do altos and tubas. And so you give and this could be a 5 minute slot or a 10 minute slot in each rehearsal. So you start off with your chorales and your warm-ups, and then you do 10 minutes of harmony bridge, and then you get to your repertoire. But during that harmony bridge period, you're only asking questions and you're not conducting either. So the kids stop having this crutch of
Hmm.
here's the beat. You don't have to worry about the beat. I'm going to give it to you. You take that away and you're in a whole new ball game right off the bat. So you can break into small groups that way. And then the kids get a chance to perform for each other too, which is really cool because that means a lot as opposed to being off in a room somewhere just practicing on your own. And then I think what can happen is the kids start getting like hooked on this. It's like, this is fun. And when they want to do it, then it opens up a whole new thing.
Sure.
So I don't deny that there are challenges because if you've got a 100-piece band, what are you going to do? Start 20 small ensembles and where are they going to rehearse? And so there still are challenges. There's no question. But getting them hooked on the fun of playing in small groups and giving them a chance to respond is um, is huge. So does that kind of answer your question or
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And let's just wrap up with you mentioned there's a pair of band directors in Arkansas
yeah,
who have sort of made this the foundation of their whole program.
yeah,
Can you tell us,
absolutely.
like, yeah, what is that? How does that look?
Yeah, Doug Blevins and his wife Tanya are husband and wife band directors in Berryville, Arkansas. Doug and I have been friends for years, and during COVID, he called me and said, "Look, I need some small ensemble stuff." And that one thing led to another. And now, like you say, it's the foundation of his program. All the things I've been telling you about, he's doing all the time. He starts his sixth graders, first year sixth graders, playing out of the trio book second semester. The first five trios only have five notes. Um, so once they know five notes, they can start playing these trios. And getting beginners into an ensemble is just awesome because
Hmm.
I mean, I didn't play in a small ensemble until I was in college. Um, I just came from the Arkansas Bandmasters Convention this past weekend, and he had a woodwind quintet of kids who are going to be in 11th grade perform at our clinic. These kids started playing trios when they were in sixth grade, and they've been playing ever since. And they are passionate about this, and they sound great. And it all started, with them playing the trios. Um, they go out in the community, not just to senior homes. They'll go out. The Rotary Club will call. The hospital's having a fundraiser. They'll call. The superintendent is 100% behind it. They've become the face of the school. And it's funny because too, when you think about the military bands, the Marines, who knows what the Marines do? It's not, it's kind of top secret. I mean, we as common folk don't really know what's going on in the Marines, but what we see is the band. They're the face of the Marines, as I see it. And everyone, if the Marine band comes to town, boy, it's sold, it's packed,
Hmm.
you know. I feel that the high school, not just the high school band, the band programs should be the face of the community and not necessarily the football team. They can in their own way. But the band programs, if we're out there connecting with the community, I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a win for the kids, for the parents, for the schools, for the community. And you can do it doesn't just, I mean, to me, playing at a senior home is the highest level of service. But you could play for a picnic or a party or a school board meeting or any number of events. And I'm sure many of your listeners out there are doing that kind of thing. I think Harmony Bridge, what Doug and Tanya say is that the Harmony Bridge books just make it so much easier because they're familiar songs and they're playable and they're flexible and they work, they seem to work really well. So yeah, I was almost tempted to have Doug and Tanya on this podcast as
Hmm.
well. You know, they could offer a lot of perspective that I don't have, but I've been to their school. I've spent a week there watching what they're doing, and the whole band is excited. He came into a band program that was hanging on, like barely hanging on, and he has turned the whole thing around in the last 7 years. And he says he owes it to Harmony Bridge, which is very heartwarming for me.
Wow.
So
What a great mission, and a great cause. So harmonybridge.net. Michael, how would people reach out to you if they wanted to know more or learn more just on the website? Get you through that.
the website, or simply
Yeah,
shoot me an email, Mike at harmonybridge.net, or dallasbrass.com. They both come to me, and yeah, I'd love to visit with anybody and everybody who has an interest in this. So I feel
wonderful.
like I've covered most of it. I know that as soon as we finish the podcast, I'm going to say, "Oh, I should have said this. I should have said that." But I think we
Yeah,
pretty much have it covered. I guess I would just sum up by saying that again, what what we offer the kids, it gives them a whole new why of playing an instrument. And I'm
agreed.
not against competition, but I think it has gotten a little out of proportion. I mean, where the trophy becomes it's the almighty trophy. And when it gets to that extreme where the kids feel like I play in band so that we can win a competition, we can win a trophy, I think that's a huge mistake. Then, because when they get out of high school and there's no trophies to play for, why play?
Yep. Yep.
So I feel like we have to really think about what we want the kids to learn, not just the instrument, but as a person, and to learn that they can make the world a better place through their instrument, even as a sixth grader. And I think that's a huge part of what, should be taught in the schools. And I think small ensembles and community outreach does a lot for that to develop individuality and a new sense of why, a sense of purpose beyond just playing well. And one last thought I want to share is that, and I talk to kids about this all the time. Why do we strive to be better and better and better? I maintain it's because the better we play, the more enjoyment people feel. It's like going to a good restaurant. If you go to greasy spoon dive, okay, it's fine. It's edible, I guess. But if you go to a really fine restaurant and you have this incredible meal, you enjoy it that much more. So that's why we strive for excellence, not to win a trophy. You don't get any trophies at the senior home. You get a whole different kind of satisfaction, intrinsic satisfaction. So
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.